So today we're going to be talking about the BRICS countries, and everyone has been scared with the money in my domiciliary account. What is going to happen to it? Are we about to see that the dollar will be worthless? What are the things that we should expect? So just calm down. I'll explain all that in this YouTube video. So watch till the end, like, comment, and let's grow this community because it's going to be mind blowing. I assure you that. You're welcome to my YouTube channel. This is my first YouTube video, so I'm still learning the ropes around YouTube and all that. So you're welcome to the Online Bankers YouTube channel. Stay tuned and let's go. Yes. For those who do not know, my name is Stanley, online banker. So I'm just introducing myself, So let's go. Let's dig in. Over the past couple of weeks, the airways have been buzzing. Yes, with a lot about the news about the BRICS countries, what China is planning with Russia, and the dethronement of the dollar. So everyone is scared. What is going to happen to the dollar? Are we going to see the end of the dollar? Is this what all of us that are holding dollars around the world, the central banks that are holding dollar as a reserve currency of their country, what is going to happen? People that are holding dollar in their domiciliary accounts, they're all scared. So everyone wants to know what will happen. With everything that is happening, is there going to be like a global shift? So I will explain all that in this YouTube video. So just watch out, stay with me till the end. So we saw the news that the president of China went to visit the president of Russia, Vladimir Putin, and Xi Jinping. And he said something that was really important. He said there's going to be 100 years shift like we hadn't seen before. And everyone was wondering, what is this going to happen? Is the dollar going to be dethroned and all? We are seeing signs of that. So what's brought about all this? Let me explain. Let me give you a backstory of this. So the country, the number one country, USA, has been in charge of everything, the politics of the world. They interfere from time to time on countries and what is going wrong. Should we address this? And how do they do this? If any country is defaulting according to the US or something that they do not agree on, they sanction those countries. And how do they sanction the country? They tell other countries, don't trade with this guy, because if you trade with this guy, we're going to come for you. And how do they effect that? Because if I need to threaten you, if I need to sanction you, I need to have something that I will say, I have this, so that's really important to you. So if you go against what I say, you're in trouble. And what they have is the dollar. So, in the likes of Iran was sanctioned by the US, and they told all the countries, don't trade with Iran. So they're taking off SWIFT. Same thing that happened to Russia. They went to war with Ukraine, and US did not like that, so they decided to sanction them. So they took them off SWIFT. So SWIFT is the body that connects all the countries. So if you need to transfer money from one country to the other, you use SWIFT, and it's handled by the US, and it's denominated in dollars. So dollar is the muscle of the USA. Now, as world powers are rising, they're saying, what do we even really use money for? All of us are trading with each other. What do we really use money for? And the truth is that we use money on a day-to-day basis to buy goods and services. And the world trades mostly in goods and services. So if, for example, I'm Nigerian, and if Nigeria is buying something from China, they are buying service, they are buying mostly goods, maybe finished goods, and you need to convert to dollars to send to China to get the Chinese yuan. But all those things, that's what they're trying to change. And one of the most traded commodities in the world is oil. And the US has held the world mostly because the dollar has become the petrodollar. It was backed by the oil that was traded around the world. So see what happened. Saudi Arabia and USA had an agreement, and they said, for the economic power that you have, having oil, we have the might. You are in the Middle East, and you could have aggressors from everywhere, because Saudi Arabia have Shiite and Sunni Muslims and all that. So they say, we could just have intrusion from any of those countries that want to fight you, but we US will have the military might that we could hold down anyone that will come against you. And they had this agreement over the years, and the dollar became petrodollar. So for you to trade oil from Saudi Arabia, which is the biggest oil producer in the world, you needed dollars, and everyone followed suit. So for you to buy barrels of oils traded in dollars, so it became petrodollars. So it became one of the strongest forces behind the world economy. And all the central banks of the world hold most of their reserve in dollars. Yes, in dollars. So now what has been happening? The dollar has become the dominant force. But the USA has been printing money. So they wake up today and say, we're going to do quantitative easing. So there were my envisaging there's a problem here, print 3 billion. There's problem here, there's problem, print 1 trillion. And the rest of the world you need to produce goods and services to get that dollar that the US can just freely print. And then they have their debt that has been rising. So with all this coming together, China said, see, if the way we're moving now, and Russia, what happened to Russia, the US can just come against us, and they come against us with the dollar. So we need to break their back early. And then, Russia is saying the same thing. And they said, let's come together, all those countries that are the BRICS countries. So you have Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa that make up the BRICS. But it is interesting to note that a number of countries have requested to join the BRICS. Notable among them is Saudi Arabia. Nigeria too has requested to join the BRICS, and a host of other countries. Now, if all those countries come together, they make up over 80% of the world's population. So if 80% of the world's population have agreed to use a particular currency, it means that they've dethroned the dollars. Simple and short. So they can trade in something that is not the dollar, they've dethroned the dollar. But it's interesting to note that this will come with challenges. You don't just wake up one day and say that the financial system of the world that has run for 100 years just ends in one day or 1 week. Nah, it takes a while. You can't just say the dollar the dollar is going to just be pushed aside. Nah, it takes a while. So how will this work, and what should you envisage? Calm down, let me explain it to you. So now the dollar is still a currency. It's still a currency. If people are scared, what's going to happen? The dollar is not going to go away. Just like you have the lira, the rupee for India, naira for Nigeria, rand for South Africa, cedis for Ghana, Swiss franc for Switzerland, euro for France. Just pounds for British pounds for England. Just the same thing. So the dollar is not going away, it's still a currency. What will happen if the dollar is dethroned as the reserve currency of the world is that it will lose a lot of its value. That's what it just simply means. It means it will lose a lot of its value, but not that it will stop being a currency. No, it will never stop being a currency as long as it is used by a country. So it's important to note that. So that should allay one of your fears. I'm still coming to what will happen to your money in UW salary accounts. So we're moving on. So now there are issues with what is being proposed by the BRICS countries. One of it is liquidity. Now, the US dollar has over the years held itself as the strong force of the world, and they've held the currency of the world and said, everybody can trade with us. We have enough liquidity. They are liquid. They have enough dollars for everybody in the world to trade in. There's no other currency that has that. Now, the Chinese yuan that is being proposed as a trade alternative, as a trade currency alternative amongst the countries, who really knows the value of the yuan? Do you know the value of the yuan? I don't know the value. The true value of the yuan is still not known because China is a socialist economy and there are capital controls in China. You can't easily take out money from China. For people that trade in China, they know this. So there's still that quote in Nigeria, they say secret cult mentality that is in China. So there's that fear. What is the Chinese yuan's value? The real value of the Chinese yuan. What is the real value? So those are the issues that will come up. Then places like Russia is handled by like Vladimir, who is a strong man, and there's almost like authoritarianism there, and you see things like Would Russia easily just give out their currency and tell you, come, we're giving a free market? These are people that have held their economies not using the democratic style. So you can't really come out and say they have the final say, in quotes. So whatever Xi Jinping says happens in China, whatever Vladimir says happens in Russia. You can't really oppose them. And you then have smaller countries that are coming up to join them. So what is the common denominator for all of them? Which currency will be the common denominator for all of them? Definitely not going to be the Chinese yuan. Definitely not going to be the Russian ruble. And it's important to know this. Let me just give you a small example. Now, the BRICS countries made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Aside China, all other currencies of the BRICS start with R. Interesting thing to note. All of them start with R, aside China's yuan. So let's go back. So now that everyone is saying we're proposing a currency, I see a new wave that is coming up, and that is interesting to note in this video. And that is the rise of the blockchain and possibly some cryptocurrencies. Is that interesting for you? Yes or no? Now, with everything that is happening, I don't trust China's style of leadership because we haven't tested it on the global scale. No one knows what China is really about. So China controls China and has done that effectively and amazingly. Over the years, what they've produced is astronomical. Like, it's been much of a miracle to say. So we have not tested that on a global scale. But there are fears that with what we know about China and what happens in China, there are things that can happen and they cover up a number of things. You can't really come out to say, oh, you guys, you can't point fingers at them. So same thing with some of the countries, like in the Middle East, say Saudi Arabia and the rest. They control what happens. They control the narrative. You can't come out to some of those countries and say, this is my right, that. No. You don't do that in those countries. So what will be the common denominator? Because there are differences in the politics of this country, the economic style. This is a socialist economy. Some of them do not have. Some of them have the monarchical system of government. Then some practice a mixed form of all these forms of government. And the politics of those countries, they are all different. Then the type, the people, the makeup, all those things are different. They do not have a common denominator. But what we're about to see is that we are going to see the rise of the blockchain. What the advantage the blockchain has is that it's an immutable ledger. And as an immutable ledger, whatever you put on the blockchain, no one can change. And everyone can view it. So if China proposes something and says, okay, this is the way we're going to go, and no one is going to deviate from this, if you put it on the blockchain, you cannot change that. So you see it in Russia, you see it in Nigeria, you see it in Ghana. If anyone changes that, you would see it. So simple and short. So the blockchain will most likely be the one that aggregates all this. And whatever currency I think personally is going to come up on the blockchain. So I am now bullish on cryptocurrencies and what the blockchain will hold in the coming years. Take it or leave it, that is what it is. So the blockchain is about to rise. So I call myself the crypto beginner. So I will start from the scratch over the next month, over the next few weeks to explain cryptocurrencies for people from scratch on what you should know about cryptocurrencies, like you haven't seen before. Like, I'm going to just explain it, break it down like a layman, and we're going to go together. I'm going to put it out, everything I learned I will share. So we're going to see a lot of that. So as China and Russia and the rest are coming together and forming all this, even over the news. So we saw the news that India said that they're going to be trading in rupees, India local currency. We saw the likes of Malaysia saying things that we shouldn't really hold the dollar anymore as much as we used to, because what are we really gaining from the dollar? Because this economy is, prior to 20-30 years ago, they were nothing. Now they are the BRICS countries and are bigger than the G7. The G7 that we used to hear of, that will go to Davos and decide the fate of the world. The BRICS countries, their economies are bigger than that of the G7, are still growing. And if all the other countries that want to join the BRICS come together, definitely will be bigger than most of what we have as the G7. So now we saw Saudi Arabia cutting down oil prices, cutting down OPEC agreements with OPEC countries, cutting down the output. What it means is that there's already energy crisis in the West where people are buying petrol for a higher amount. So if they cut production, it means that there's limited amount, so the prices are going to soar. With already inflation in those places, I don't know what it's going to. It's almost like the rate hike is already caused part of the banking crisis that we saw, because as rates keeps increasing, some of these banks are going to tank. So I don't know what's to drive the agenda of the BRICS and all that they have planned, but it's important to note something. The idea of dethroning the dollar as the reserve currency of the world, as proposed by the BRICS, is that they want it to be backed by a commodity. They want it to be backed by commodities. So are we looking at gold? Are we looking at oil? Are we looking at silver? It's important to let you know that if we are going by the gold standard, the biggest holder of gold in the world is the USA. So you see from the statistics that I'm placing here on screen, so you will see that the USA houses over 8,000 metric tons of gold, higher than any country in the world, just closely followed by Germany, and Nigeria has just 21. So if you were to go by the gold standard, the US still tops everyone. Now, if you go by bitcoins, like people propose, who developed the bitcoins? Satoshi Nakamoto, like we call it. I think that's just a name. But I think cryptocurrencies, I think Bitcoin was developed by the US. You could take that. You don't quote me on this. This is my opinion. So I think the US still has a long hold on the world. They're not just going to. They didn't come up to be world power to not to envisage things like this happening someday. I still think that they have a very huge force in the world. And that goes back to your dollar. What should happen to your dollar in your domiciliary account? Should you be scared that you're going to lose it? Are you scared? Should you be scared? Now you should note that if you were to compare your dollar in your domiciliary account and your local currency, which is your naira, because I'm in Nigeria, or your local currency, which one has more value? And even in the effects that anything happens around the world, do you think your currency, your local currency, will beat the dollar? Do you think so? And the answer most likely is no, because your country is not as strong, as developed as the US. And the US still has a large contribution to the world in terms of military might, in terms of technology, in terms of the infrastructure that houses the financial system of the world. All these things are not just going to go away overnight. They still have a strong say in the world. So all that we are hearing, I just think are just I won't call it noise, but I would say it's just it's a tactic to an end. It's a tactic to an end, and we will not discount all that is happening. So we'll keep watch. But the money that you have in your domiciliary account is not going anywhere soon. You should be careful. You should look at other ways of diversifying. I would advise going forward that you look into the cryptocurrencies and blockchain of the world, because that is where the world is going. But you shouldn't just rush and panic and say, you know what, take my dollar for half the price. No, I don't do that. Do not do that, because it's still important. Everything around the world is still priced in dollars, and we will price in dollars into the coming years. It will be priced in dollars until we see a currency that will house all this, and whatever currency that will be the world's reserve currency. That will become the one currency of the world. We're about to see the currency of the world. We're already seeing central banks around the world coming out with CBDCs, that's central bank digital currencies. So all this is just a plot to the end. So we would stay watch out all this, and this should allay your fears. The dollar in your domiciliary account, calm down. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. Let me tell you that. But what you should note is that a lot is changing around the world. You should open your ears, have an open mind, learn about things, learn about the blockchain, learn about the politics of the world, see the direction that things are going. Invest your money in assets and not cash. Invest your money in assets, because as assets rise, whatever it is, if you have a farm, and no matter what's the currency of the world, people will buy food, they will change to that currency to buy food. If you have a service that you're providing, no matter what the currency of the world, people will pay you with whatever currency is available. So invest in goods and services, invest in assets, things that would appreciate. So that's it for today. That's it on my first YouTube video like this because I had like a couple that I did with some actors when I started off. So I hope this made sense to you. Please, if you're new on the channel, I'm growing this and I'll be talking a lot more about banking and all that it entails. Hey, this is the Online Banker, and I hope you had a good time with me. I hope you learned something. I hope this made sense to you. Hey, be good and take care. This is the Online Banker.